Hello everyone, this is Soyoung. Today I'm gonna talk about which country is better to live, Germany versus Korea. Which Korea are you talking about? Are you talking about North Korea or South Korea? Of course I'm talking about South Korea. You're asking this question because you are not from South Korea. Because if you ask a South Korean, which country are you from? They will say, I'm from Korea. Have you ever met North Korean? It's almost impossible to meet North Korean, but it's super easy to meet South Korean, okay? That's the reason. Which country is better to live, North or South? Okay, that was not the question. Germany versus South Korea. Let's first think about the money. Money. Am I making more money in Germany because I moved to Germany from South Korea? Is it because of the money? Let's look. If you look at the GDP per capita, the Germany, you can make almost like close to $50,000 per year, like $48,000 per year. And in South Korea, you can make $32,000 per year. So it seems like Germany, I can make almost 50% more money. Is it true? Now, if you think about German tax rate, this is not the case, because if you deduct tax, health insurance, whatsoever, lot of insurance thing, what comes out at the end of the day, you get around like $2,600 per month, okay? And in Korea, it's like $2,450 per month, which is almost the same level. So I would say you don't come to Germany from South Korea for money. So that's why when you meet a lot of Asians in Germany, you wouldn't meet so many South Korean or Japanese. It will be a little more like Chinese or Vietnam, some other countries, because financially it is not extremely beneficial for South Korean to move all the way to the another continent, okay? That's the reason. So in terms of money, it's not the best country to live in Germany, okay? For a South Korean point of view. Let's look at all the detail. What about the living costs and the lifestyle? Then we can go on to more in-depth review. So let's say you move to Germany as a single. What kind of a flat would you live? You would most probably live in a shared flat. Is it because to have fun with your flatmate? Yes, it is possible you can have some life, like sitcom life, but a lot of people live together in a shared flat to save money, because that is the cheapest option that you can live in Germany. What about Korea? Let's talk about Seoul, because Seoul is a capital of the country and 1/4 of the population lives there. If you want to live in a very, very cheap flat as a single, what a lot of people do, like a lot of students live in a tiny room, and there might not be a kitchen in the flat. No kitchen. It could be a toilet for yourself or shared toilet. But in any case, if you think about the cheapest option in Seoul, it will be cheaper than a capital of Germany, in Berlin, shared flat. It will be like in Berlin, if you're really lucky, you can now find a shared room for €600 per month. And in Korea, you can go even down like €300 per month. You can find something without even a deposit, but it will be very, very, very tiny room that you have one bed and tiny little table and then some space to walk. So that kind of level, yes, Seoul is cheaper than Berlin. But is it really enjoyable? I wouldn't say so. So let's scale up for the flat. If you look for a bigger apartment to rent, because as a student, you don't buy an apartment, okay? I'm of course talking about rent. If you think about a family flat in Germany, in Berlin, you can find relatively okay flat in Berlin. Like for 2-3 rooms apartment in Berlin, you can pay like typically more than 1,000 euro or 2,000 euro per month. So this is the range, and the deposit is like 2-3 times of this rent. So it's more reasonable to find this kind of flat. But if you want to find 2-3 room apartment in Seoul, in Korea, it's way more tricky, because you cannot find like 1,000-2,000 euro per month apartment that much, because most of the people don't pay a rent. What do you mean you don't pay a rent? It's not that it's free. You have to put a huge deposit. How much huge deposit are you talking about? It's about like 100, 200, 300,000 euro. That's the deposit I'm talking about. This is insane, right? Korea has a very, very unique system in the world that we don't pay a rent, but there is a system called jeonse, and it's a very, very insane system that you pay a huge deposit, which is typically half of the flat price or even more sometimes. So this kind of money, you have to give it to your landlord. This is insane, but this is more common. If you don't have this money, what do? You can get a loan from a bank. So to give the deposit to the landlord, you get a loan from a bank, and then you pay the interest rate to the bank. So it's a very, very complex system. But some people prefer this system because you can pay less kind of interest rate. But the problem is that your big money goes through another person, like the landlord, private owner. So this is a tricky system. It becomes complex. To find an apartment in Seoul, in Korea, is way more like expensive than finding an apartment in Berlin. Because in Berlin, you don't need to get a loan to find a rental apartment, okay? Nobody does that. But in Korea, in Seoul, or anywhere, it's super common to get a loan from a bank to get a rental apartment. And then, since it is almost like half of the flat price, it is very expensive, and it's also maybe a bit financial burden for you. So I would say it's easier to find a flat in Berlin, in Germany, no matter how much people complain about high rent. For my perspective as a Korean, I think it's cheap, okay? If you consider a large family, for a family, I would say Berlin is cheaper than Seoul. And if you look at the flat price in Berlin, like purchase price, it's not easy for people to find an unrented flat in Berlin, because the rented flat is cheaper than unrented flat. In Berlin, it may cost $6,000 or $8,000 dollars per square meter. In Seoul, in Korea, it can be almost like 50% more expensive. And this is insane, because, as I said, Korea has a lower GDP per capita, but the flat price is more expensive. So what I'm talking is that even though the money you get from the income would be more expensive in Germany, but the flat price and all these things are a bit cheaper in Berlin. So that's why the living cost is a benefit for me to live in Berlin. Let's look at all the other costs. You cannot live just in apartment and don't eat. Let's look at the living cost. If you go to a supermarket in Berlin, what surprised me the first is apple is so cheap. It costs like €4 for 1 kilo. I mean, this is insanely cheap as a Korean who used to pay almost double. Like in Korea, you have to pay like almost €7 for 1 kilo apple. And it's not a better quality. Berlin supermarket is very cheap for a South Korean. Supermarket is cheaper in Germany. But what surprise is when you start to go out for a restaurant or buy something, cheap stuff like imbiss. In Germany, you can get a döner kebab, which is like a street food, the cheapest food you can find. You have to pay like minimally €6 to €8. In Korea, we have also kind of imbiss, which is called like kimbap and all these very, very, like there's like Korean sushi style stuff. And you can pay like €3. So, like if you can get a meal for €3, what will happen? People don't cook. If you're okay to eat kimbap every day, you don't need to cook. So what happened to the students in Korea? You don't cook. So it's super common not to cook even as a student in Korea. Whereas in Germany, if you don't cook, you have to eat outside all the time. It will be very expensive. Or do you want to eat döner kebab every day? It's too much. So because of this, so if you live in Germany, a lot of people cook more often. In South Korea, the restaurant like business are very, very like more common. So you don't need to cook much. So this is kind of different lifestyle. And let's also look at the other living costs. What about the health insurance? How is it different? In Germany, I would say you have to pay almost 15% of your income, which is insanely high. But what is covered? Almost every necessary like medical expenses are covered. Whereas in Korea, you only pay 3.3% of your income to the health insurance. Does it mean there is no insurance? No, it is partially covered. So when it's super necessary, you pay very little for each visit, but when it gets a bit more expensive, hospitalization and all these things, then it becomes more tricky and you have to pay yourself a lot of fee. So I would say if you're healthy, you pay way less in South Korea. And if you're not healthy, Germany is way better for living because you don't need to worry about, this medical expense. If it's necessary, German government will pay you. No worry. In South Korea, if you're rich, it's better. But if you're poor, it sucks, okay? But if you're healthy, that's fine because you can save a lot of money not paying almost 15% of your salary. So I would say, which country is better to live? Germany versus Korea. In terms of life quality, I would say Germany is better. Having a family, also Germany is better because you can find a more affordable flat with your income and like a lot of systems are covered by the government. So it's way more socialist country, but in Korea is a more capitalist country that is growing, like IT-wise, super convenient-wise. South Korea is like unbeatable. Like maybe China is also as convenient, or Japan is as convenient, but like this convenient thing, you cannot go to the Korean level. Because in Germany, how would you feel? You would feel like things are slow. It's not that accessible. I cannot find this super fast. Things take time in Germany. In Korea, things are quick. Okay? there are big differences. And also in terms of IT, I would say German IT is okay, but Korea IT is stronger because, you know, like Samsung, like this kind of electronic companies like LG, Samsung and LG kind of took over a lot of European electronic companies, right? So I would say in terms of career progress and things, Korea is actually not a bad country to live. But why am I in Germany? Because of all this life quality and other, you know, like so many places to visit around. The life is simply better in Germany. That's why I live in Germany, not in Korea. But I would say some things in Korea is much better than Germany. So of course I miss those factors. So I hope this video was helpful enough, and see you in the next video again. Bye bye.